Hello, RoahmMythril here once again, getting back to RoahmMythril 3, and it's time to cover the judge commentary for the last 3 stages we just went through. So, first up, 174th place, CrashMan Simulator by Boris225, 18 out of 100. This stage got 5.4 in design, 6 in fun, 4 in creativity, 3.8 in aesthetics, and 4.8 in functionality, with a 25% time penalty. So, starting up we have Mick, 18 out of 100. Well, this is a familiar feeling concept. I know I've played it in Mega Man Maker before multiple times. Having to lure around Crashman, or rather Crashmen, so he's safe to kill later seems like a neat idea, but in practice, it's actually really frustrating to control, turning the experience into a chore with how long Crashman's gauntlet is. Having to lure 2 at once is just the cherry on top, as they're very rarely synced up. But then there's also a Flashman at the end of the section, and the floor doesn't explode unless you kill all 3 of them. As a result, you can just use Tornado Blow and Spark Chaser to kill the Crashman, and then go kill Flashman to claim the element. That works? Oh dear. I rather doubt that was the intention, and it breaks the level clean in 2. That might be a good thing, though. It would have been super annoying otherwise. That's kind of unfortunate if, yeah, the main gimmick and rule of your stage doesn't actually work. I didn't even think to try that. Apparently I'm lawful good and just assumed the rule was real. Shinryu, 10 out of 100. I get what you're going for here, but it doesn't work. It really doesn't. Influencing the movements of a boss to solve a puzzle is a decent idea on paper, but in execution it leaves a lot to be desired. For as simplistic as this level is, trying to do this the intended way by getting 2 copies of Crashman to cooperate with jumps is downright tedious. If you somehow manage to get them to the end, though, you now have the task of dealing with 3 bosses at the same time. This whole process would be really frustrating, if it weren't so easy to cheat it. The floor doesn't break away until all 3 bosses are dead, meaning you can just use weapons that can reach the Crashman from below, like Tornado Blow or Spark Chaser, and then head to the right to deal with Flashman alone. While I'm thankful that there's a workaround to the frustration this level could cause, I still can't ignore the fact that this is a glaring oversight that breaks the whole point of the stage. Maybe this could have worked out better if it was split into different segments, along with using different bosses that you had to avoid rather than indirectly control. I'm honestly not really sure what else I could suggest here, other than to get more people to playtest your stage next time. You'd be surprised by how many ways any given level, even the most basic of ones, can be broken. That's true. Patchy, 40 out of 100. Clash of Crashes. That always just picks at my brain. I always forget, was it ever truly determined if it was supposed to be Crashman or Clashman? Because, I mean, I've seen both, even in the games themselves. But I'm also so used to Crashman at this point, I think I'd have a hard time switching over. Yeah. I mean, I still call it Bubble Lead instead of Bubble Lead. Well, this was certainly a weird little experience. I find that the concept of manipulating and escorting an enemy through a series of obstacles to be a pretty neat gimmick. As the current stage stands, however, it is kind of more like a proof of concept than a fleshed out execution, which is a shame. At least that's what I think the stage was trying to go for anyways. It actually isn't really clear what good it does for sending the Crashman to the end. If anything, it makes the end fight more difficult, pinning you against both Flash and Crash at the same time, while they kinda just spawn camp you a lot at the little hole you have to get out of. I do notice the platform you start on disappears if any of the Crashmen were to be eliminated, so it's kind of an enforcement mechanism in place. It doesn't work though, as you can just ignore the Crashmen doing their own thing in their chambers and go about your way to the end. Huh. So according to Patchy, the floors do self-destruct if you defeat either of the Crashmen? Huh, weird. Flashman 85, 32 out of 100. Pardon me, but I believe you're looking for the Make an Experimental Mega Man Maker level contest, which is down the hall. Unconventional escort quest? Actually pretty cool. Blowing up the floor to deter a premature victory? Smart. Communicating the rules to the player up front? Much appreciated. But that's where the questions cease having positive answers, so I'll stop asking them. Visually, this is the level equivalent of paint swatches from a hardware store. Decide which Mega Man 2 tile set best fits your simulator room. The Bubble Man section is begging to be animated. A patch of unsightly non-solid tiles sticks around after the floor explodes. Some other music after the bosses are defeated might have been nice. Thanks to haphazardly arranged architecture with invisible slopes no less, navigating Crashman through the level is a mostly tedious affair, which reaches peak difficulty right before the easiest part. Without any hazards to you or CrashMan, however, the whole exercise is pointless. It's a time-wasting journey that ends in a sloppy boss team-up. Assuming you play the level as intended, that is. Contrary to what the typo-ridden text box says, the floor only collapses when you've destroyed all 3 bosses. Okay, so that's 3-1 so far, in favor of, yes, you can cheese this. Among other strategies, you can immediately obliterate CrashMan and his flagrantly accidental doppelganger with Tornado Blow, saunter over to the ladder, and hit Flashman from the ladder with Magnetic Shockwave, thus completing the easiest damage-free run in the contest. I do like the idea of needing to traverse CrashMan's path in reverse to get the token, but aside from checking if the invisible wall is still there after the bosses explode, there's nothing to it, aside from saving a smidge of weapon energy to get back out. Fun concept, dysfunctional execution. Before we show the last one for this stage, just a quick content warning. The wording and style here, it can be seen as insensitive toward matters of mental health. It didn't really hit me as I was going through it during the recording. Mostly I just found it awkward to read through due to the way it's written, but it was brought to my attention by friends that this could be seen as problematic. I'm just leaving it in for essentially archival completion purposes, so just felt it best to give warning. A-Spark, 20 out of 100. The comics are back. Huh? Inside you there are 2 CrashMan? One is jump, one is shoot. 2 broken halves of the same. Who will win? That's not how it... Oh god, you do not look well. We not challenge. I inject Clash to help make challenge yup. We three are ultimate challenge. Sure buddy, let's get you an orange pop. I like orange. I am error. Okay. Not really sure what to make of that one. So, yeah, this particular stage, it is an interesting idea. I think puzzles like that, of like having to guide an enemy by realizing how you can manipulate them, it can be fun, but yeah, CrashMan's jumps can be a little awkward to manipulate. And it also feels like there needed to be more there, like if there were any way for there to actually be a threat to CrashMan that you had to purposefully get him to avoid, and if the gimmick actually worked correctly. Like, I don't know anything really about this engine, so for example, I don't know how easy it is to where you could have set flags to where only CrashMan counted for destroying the floor, whereas Flashman did not. So, yeah, I don't really know how easily that could have been fixed. It is an interesting idea on paper, but maybe needs a bit more work. So next up, 173rd place, Glitched Up Beta, by Garyon, Garabel, and Shattered Cards. 21 out of 100. This stage got 3.8 in design, 4.2 in fun, 2 in creativity, 2.6 in aesthetics, and 8.4 in functionality. No time penalty. Mick, 19 out of 100. Well, this was a whole lot of nothing. The concept had potential, and I was certainly baffled when I arrived. But this is just dull and bland instead of anything interesting, throwing out what little concept it had in short order. The zeros seemed to disappear about halfway through the level, and having barely anything to interact with. At the very least, it was surprisingly functional for a glitched up beta, but that's not the most significant bar to pass. Otherwise, there's really not a lot to comment on here. Shinryu, 14 out of 100. There's virtually nothing to talk about here. Even taking this level at face value, in that it's a joke about the game engine getting messed up, and therefore it's supposed to be bad, it still ends up falling short. I get the intention here, even if I didn't find the joke itself funny, but the problem is you still need an actual level to support it. Granted, the concept of a glitched level isn't exactly new, but I think this still could have worked if a lot more effort was put into it. If you're going to do something like this, you might as well go all out with it. Make the visuals more unique and twisted as the level goes on, or add strange new enemies and gimmicks to mix things up. Basically, my advice would be to take the glitched up aspect and make it a part of the level's identity, instead of just being a weak punchline. Patchy, 29 out of 100. You didn't install Mega Man Source. An interesting choice of aesthetics, I guess? That's right, I'm talking about the music. It do be so gosh darn loud, holy garbles. Honestly though, if you take away the whole glitchy part, the stage is really not that impressive. The architecture involves all straight paths, with only one section of the whole stage involving any platforming at all, and you reach the next part by a ladder each time, accompanied by the checkpoint reached notification. It almost felt like sections were just lazily copied and pasted, together with the same lame way of transitioning. The stage would have been more interesting had it tried to utilize its theming a lot more, like having clashes of different tile sets together to form interesting terrains to traverse through, enemies fuse together to create a glitched abomination, make the stage layout more chaotic by having more varied transition methods, etc. Just things more on top of the mind than splattering giant 1s and 0s in places. Numbers. How spooky. I mean, math class was probably the main class that actually legit gave me panic attacks back in high school. Yeah, a little behind the Durgan commentary here. Back in high school, I was kind of, pushed into honors math classes by higher-ups in the school that I really was not ready for. It was the only class I ever really came close to failing. I only made it through thanks to my friend back then who could actually explain it in a way that made sense to me. So yeah, math can be scary. Oddly, it makes more sense to me when the numbers are actually applied to something solid, like the math and physics at Full Sail when I was studying game design and they were actually applied to things there. That somehow made more sense to me. I don't know how common that is. Anyway, moving on. FlashMan85, 24 out of 100. Thank you for calling the RoahmMythril Level Design Support Center. Before we connect you with a representative, please listen to our self-service checklist, which can help resolve many common level design problems. 1. Has this level been playtested by multiple people? Hazards are placed too close to screen entrances are a common sign of under playtesting. 2. If your level has any text, e.g. NPC dialogue, has it been reviewed for typos and clarity? 3. Is the level visually appealing? Little touches, e.g. background tiles arranged to look like an enemy or like a glitchy program, are nice, but remember that repetitive textures and long stretches of solid colored background should be avoided, regardless of the theme. Choosing enemies that fit the theme, or respriting them to look like they fit, is also recommended. 4. Are the challenges thoughtfully constructed and organized in some sort of thematic difficulty, complexity, progression? If there are blank screens with no apparent purpose, and if every challenge contains only one hazardous component and can be overcome by doing the same thing 4 times in a row, then the challenge design is probably not sufficiently innovative or meaningful. Disguising spikes and platforms as binary code is a cute idea, but not enough to carry a level. 5. Are checkpoint objects placed at logical intervals, using the correct type and quantity? 6. Has the level been checked for any oversights or inconsistencies with collision and section objects, e.g. bottomless pits where there should logically be a transition to the screen below, tiles that don't function like they look like they should, especially if deception isn't a core theme? 7. Does your level avoid making the player fight Sonic Man on dry land? Because seriously, fighting Sonic Man on dry land is not any fun for FlashMan. We apologize, no representatives are available. Please hang up and try your level again. And Aspark, 19 out of 100. Me, this stage. Is this art? This is one of those memes that I only know through osmosis, and it does tend to crack me up. The whole, is this a bird meme? I have no idea where it comes from, but it does amuse me, so I appreciate the reference. So yeah, this stage, I will say, it was a bit empty, and yes, the zeros are deadly kind of gimmick. That did feel like it went away really quickly. There weren't many enemies in this stage. It was just, I think, what, 6 to 8 myths and Sonic Man. So yeah, there's not a whole lot of danger to this stage. But the whole, like, the glitchy concept, I think it could work, but definitely needed to lean a bit more into it, I think. Because, yeah, like, making things steadily look more and more and more corrupted, I think that could have actually been a cool aesthetic. So finally, 172nd place, You Don't Know the Drill by Papyrus Semi. So this one got 5.4 in design, 5 in fun, 1.8 in creativity, 3.2 in aesthetics, and 7.4 in functionality. No time penalty. So first up, Mick, 18 out of 100. Not funny, didn't laugh. Humor can be a nice thing to have, but it's important to have an actual level behind it. This ultimately does not. It at least starts with something of a level, albeit one with naught but some gravity flips and weirdly recolored enemies. Also, it didn't even use mugshots for CrashMan or Gutsman, despite the engine supporting that, and the music dies so easily that I'm not convinced it's the engine this time. I don't think I experienced the music dying, so I wonder what causes that. Speaking of memes that always get me, the confused pondering skeleton, I love that one. So Shinryu, 14 out of 100. Oh, alright then. But why though? In all seriousness, however, there's not a whole lot to discuss here. Design-wise, this level is all over the place. Many of the sections are either largely empty or feature inefficient enemies thanks to their placements, with special mention going to the hot dog, who you can safely kill by standing right next to it. I didn't even think to try that. The tokens are probably the most notable things here, given two of them are hidden in a pretty ridiculous way. While the level does hint at them via some ground tiles being slightly different, it's such a minor and easy to miss detail that, quite frankly, I can't see anyone obtaining them their first time through without prior knowledge, or the map upgrades at least. Yeah, at first I thought it was just that ladder at the end that I fell through the fake floor and missed the ladder, and that's where they were all going to be. It wasn't until going through the second time, and just the fact that I used down and jump to slide, that I found one of the hidden ladders, and then knew kind of what to look for. And then had to find the one earlier on again with another playthrough. Patchy, 44 out of 100. But do you know the bulldozer? Well, that was certainly a level. There's a story being told in that form of a million signposts that I'm not going to read through. This ain't a Minecraft adventure map. I guess it's somewhat entertaining to look at the wacky changing visuals and unexpected tricks the level occasionally throws at you. Other than that, though, there isn't really any, actual level design going on for the majority of the level. CrashMan 21 out of 100. You're right, I don't know the drill, because I was under the impression that the drill was to make a good Mega Man level, not a haphazard collision of assets that uses a silly narrative to excuse the absence of a real level design. The entire level hinges on the player being amused by the premise of sloppiness due to budget issues. If the humor falls flat, or worse yet, if the player ignores the generically named info boxes, which don't even bother with character portraits, then the whole thing becomes a waste of time. The story is the only reason to play this level. Graphics, most screens consist of repetitive foreground with a nondescript or crudely abstract background. Soundtrack, it's a hodgepodge of decent tunes that don't complement each other, assuming the music starts playing at all. And I'm always wary when levels reuse iconic music from previous Mag Memos. X Factory would like a word with the Wily Castle section. So, yeah, another person talking about the music dying out, which, again, I don't think I had that happen, so weird. Gameplay? Shoot the thing in front of you, jump over an easy gap. Learn how more than a dozen unrelated enemies and gimmicks function, then wonder if you'll see any of them again. Fall through a fake floor and then replay the whole level to get the token you were cheated out of. Polish? Bottomless pits are indistinguishable from screen transitions. Gravity flippers hardly look like gravity flippers. Yeah, I did not realize that's what those were at first. Invisible and completely absent collision objects turn air into walls and walls into air. Jump over the gate to turn Wily Castle into Wily Prison. Problems like these make the hidden ladders look like actual tiling mistakes instead of something suspicious to be investigated. Yeah, come to think of it. I mean, for the most part, I want to say the tiling of at least those particular graphics looked fine. So those did stand out once you knew what to look for. I like the idea of a level that's comically falling apart because of imaginary money matters, but this one falls apart because it's a joke first and a Mega Man level second. A-Spark, 17 out of 100. You realize entering intentionally crappy levels does not get the response you're expecting. This got zero reaction from me. I feel bad putting in the effort I am into this comment. And other than my sheer bafflement at how somehow breaking the music player, there's nothing to discuss or make light of. Okay, so another who experienced the music issue. I mean, I know the game has been patched a few times since release. I wonder if they figured out what went wrong in one of the patches, and that's why I didn't experience it. Who can say? Except this, for anyone playing, two of the hidden tokens are down invisible ladders during these screens with stone floors. Yep. All hail the down and jump slide. That led me to victory. So yeah, overall, it's an alright stage. I don't think it does anything, terribly offensive, but knowing the gravity flippers were there, it didn't really feel like I was naturally led to that. There were two other ways off that screen that felt more natural to me than, oh, this is what I'm supposed to do. Also, yeah, the way the tokens were hidden, the two of them are down hidden ladders, and one is a visible ladder, but with a fake floor that I don't know if that had any hints that, hey, this is fake, and so it might make you redo the entire stage again. That felt a little bit tedious. But yeah, a lot of this does hinge on the humor of the text boxes, so yeah, if you skip over those, then the joke isn't really there and it does kind of fall flat. Overall, not a horrible level, but probably could have done things a little bit better, tightened up the design and the humor a bit. I think there's potential here at the very least. But with that, that's where we're going to call it, so thank you very much for watching. I hope you're enjoying the series so far, and I shall see you again next time. Until then, fare thee well.